Welcome to the Remember Who You Are podcast, where we discuss powerful and transformative plant medicine experiences. I'm your host, Ruger Hebert. I run Mexisoul, a plant medicine retreat center in Mexico, and I'm here today with my guest, Jamielou Walsh. Jamie is a holistic well-being coach and yoga teacher with over 12 years of experience exploring and supporting human health, vitality, and transformation. Her journey began at 19 as a personal trainer, driven by a passion for physical health, which led her to study nutrition and deepen her understanding of how to nourish the body. From there, her path expanded beyond the physical through yoga, meditation, and spiritual exploration. She's now pursuing a master's in transpersonal psychology, spirituality, and consciousness. Jamie blends science with lived, embodied wisdom. She approaches life with a deep respect for the human experience, embracing the idea of being a spirit in human form, while remaining curious about the mechanisms behind it all. You'll likely find her under a tree, a yoga mat, or planning her next travel adventure.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Ruga. It's a real honor. So yeah, my journey started with plant medicines really young. Like I was 20 when I started, and that was because the first 20 years of my life were really tough. Like the first 19 years of my life were really tough. I was raised in challenging circumstances, just with really young parents who didn't have much money, struggled with addiction, and couldn't take care of themselves. Therefore, it was impossible to take care of me. So yeah, that was what sort of led me, to be honest, to hit rock bottom at a really young age. And, you know, to the point where I didn't want to be here anymore, didn't want to be on the planet anymore. And that was an awakening moment for me, I guess. I didn't know that that's what it was at the time, but it felt like everything sort of had to collapse in order for me to be humble, to become aware, to actually realize that I was here in some way, rather than just being in fight or flight, or just sort of feeling like a victim to the world and just feeling like I didn't want to be here anymore. I just hit this place where, yeah, rock bottom. And the only way to go, place to go from there is up. But on the positive, before that rock bottom moment, yes, I was very chaotic and not knowing how to manage my emotions, but I was always very, very curious, like weirdly curious as a child. And I think that curiosity has really served me in my life, because I've had the courageousness or the craziness, probably a bit of both, to follow it and to listen to it. So from this rock bottom moment, I knew that I had to change my mind and the way that I was thinking about life and about myself, which then took me on this journey, like we said in the intro, to first of all my physical health, because I don't know, I just intuitively knew that I had to do something physically, and then that didn't feel enough. I was like, but what I eat is so important. So that took me into nutrition, and then I went to my first yoga class, and then it kind of just went really quickly from there. And I remember Googling about plant medicine and just wondering what they were. I think I watched a documentary called Tribe on BBC, which took a BBC crew to the Amazon rainforest to drink ayahuasca. Um, and most people who watch it at, like, I don't know, 15, 16 years old would be like, what the hell? And I was just fascinated. I was like, wow, seeing these people purge in the Amazon. And then I guess that
Planted a seed.
yeah, it planted a seed inside of me, and I always just had this curiosity. And I think for about 2 years before I did any plant medicine, I was just watching YouTube videos. I was watching the really, really early stages of Joe Rogan, when he was literally in his garage talking about DMT with his friends. And
Look
and
at him
then
now.
I know, yeah, and it was some of the very first episodes of his podcast. And I was, obviously looking back now, I was sort of preparing myself mentally for my life now as it's unfolded. But priming my mind to be able to do this experience. And so yeah, but I also waited. I wasn't like seeking it out actively. I was just knowing that the time would come, and it did. When I went to Thailand as part of also my travel hungry side of me. I went to Thailand when I was alone, when I was 20. Yeah. Oh no, I was 21. I just turned 21, and I knew that you could do mushroom shakes there, and you know you could explore mushrooms. And I was alone, and I went to this little bar kind of place called Eden, and I sat in a hammock alone, looking up at the ceiling, and drank a mushroom shake, and I was there for like 6 hours.
Before we get into that experience, do you think, for like anyone that is maybe struggling, what what shifted your perspective on just rock bottom? Like, do you think it was always this innate curiosity, or
What shifted my perspective of it? What do
I
you
mean,
mean?
some people stay in that space for a long time, like just being like kind of feel this feeling of hopelessness and a victim and not knowing what to do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a blessing for me that I allowed myself to hit rock bottom. I think a lot of people stay stuck, but they're afraid of hitting rock bottom is what keeps them stuck. It's almost like they don't want to let go of those final attachments because they're afraid to lose everything, or, you know, so I would say allow yourself to lose everything. And I know that that sounds so much easier said than done, because like I lost all of my friends. I lost my whole identity. I mean, it was like it was attempted suicide, but it was also social suicide. Like it was like, you know, the primal feeling of being ostracized from a tribe. I had that feeling, and so it was a death of some sort. I was never the same after that.
Can you
But
elaborate a little bit on that when you say allow yourself to hit rock bottom?
yeah, I would say that I'm really conscious of my words because I don't want to sound like I'm bypassing the experience of being depressed and down, because I know firsthand how hard it is, and but it's almost like to trust the feeling of that you're being informed by something, that what you're doing and where you are is not right. It's like, how can the universe get you to move, get you to change? It's to make things so unbelievably uncomfortable for you. Like it's happening for you so that you will move. And the more you resist it, the more uncomfortable it becomes. And it's also having this faith. And I think that's something that I also always had. I didn't really learn, but it was like a subtle, soft faith that if I take the leap, then maybe a net will appear. Something will, you know, something will happen. Maybe there's more to life than what I know now, you know, and just having the faith that, yeah, maybe it's not going to turn out worse. Maybe this is as bad as it could get. And, you know, maybe it can get, obviously, when you hit rock bottom, you know you hit rock bottom. It can't get any worse. But when you're in that stuck place before rock bottom, yeah, it can get worse. It can get way worse. But from there, you, I don't know, you kind of, I was in a place for the first time in my life where it was like, okay, I'm not okay, and something has to change. And I'm really feeling the sadness because I can't run away from it anymore. Like there's no way I can deny that I'm okay. And as difficult as that is, it's also so liberating, because it's like, I think a lot of what keeps us stuck is like having to feel like we have to hold it all together, and sort of feeling like we have to show up and put on this mask every day, and like, yeah, it's like carrying the weight of the world. So that one of the most relieving things that I remember feeling about being so vulnerable was like, well, at least I don't have to hold anything anymore, you know. At least I can just be not okay and build myself up from here slowly. And it did take time. I mean, it was a process. For me to be in a place now where I can speak about this openly without being sad or ashamed. You know, it's taken a long time and a lot of work, but I truly am grateful for that experience now because it changed my life.
You said take a leap too. Well, you finally decided to take a leap. Was that a specific action, or was it just acknowledging that this can't continue in the same way, or was it?
Well, to be honest, in that case, when I hit rock bottom, that was a leap towards not wanting to be here anymore. That was
Uh,
like an attempt to die. But ever since then, also how my life, I guess this situation was what taught me that courage. Or I guess I maybe must have had some innate courage to even do that. But that situation has taught me, and I've experienced it over and over and over again in my life, that when you take a leap into the unknown, it's like you get a reward for having that trust in life. It works out somehow. And it's like just, yeah, this is the magic of life. It's a mystery. We don't know everything. It's unfolding for us. And like trying to prove everything and not admitting that this is one big blooming crazy mystery that we're in. And just ignoring that and trying to logic our way through everything and trying to solve all the problems of the world. I think that's what creates the most stress. But if you, I don't know, just listen to that little voice within that we all have and sort of take a leap of faith. It can be a small one, but it can also be a big one. And every single time, every time without fail, it's always worked out better than I could have possibly imagined for myself,
hmm.
you know. And this is also one of the beautiful things about this rock bottom moment for me, is that it's given me that gift of being able to trust that I don't always know what is best for me. And every time I try and figure out what's best for me, I'm only using the resources that I've got inside of my brain based on what I've read and what I've seen, only from my life. But if I give myself over to something bigger in a sense and I say, you decide what's best for me, so I take this leap, worlds open up. That's also what I've experienced time and time again. It's just like saying, I'm open to this being better than I can possibly imagine.
Hmm. I might not. I might need to be. I may have that be the title of the podcast
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, please.
Remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we can jump back, I guess, to you being in a hammock in Thailand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was in a hammock in Thailand and I drank this kiwi flavored mushroom shake. And yeah, it was so delicious. I was expecting it to taste like mud or something, but it was super delicious. Also, I remember it like it was yesterday. There was like very tribal kind of music playing, and there was the thing that made me feel safe in that moment was that there were little children running around in the bar that I was in, and their parents like playing with them, and something about like the presence of children just made me feel safe, so I could just surrender into this hammock. I could be there all day, and then the visual started. And the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that. I mean, you can't really explain a hallucination experience to those who haven't experienced it. It's really difficult. But I was seeing things and I was wondering, is this my mind? Like, am I creating these images? Because they were not necessarily all positive. There was like a combination of light and dark stuff that I was witnessing, and but I also had this feeling, okay, I'm watching this. And then I was just in awe of what I was seeing. I went to the bathroom and I looked around at all of the trees and the nature, and I had this feeling of like, welcome.
Mhm.
We've been waiting for you. It was almost like nature was saying, we have been waiting for you. I felt so at home in that realm. It was like it felt more at home than I feel in my everyday life. I felt like so relaxed in my body, and it was, yeah, it was a really softening feeling and very alive. And I had the feeling of, but you don't mess with me. It was like,
Nature.
yeah, not just nature, but the mushrooms themselves. It was like, yeah, you can enjoy me, and this is an amazing feeling, and I'm putting your back up against the wall and telling you like you don't abuse this. You know what I mean? Because prior to that, my experience of life had been around addiction. Like my mom had has an ongoing issue with alcohol. My dad had a problem with heroin, and so I was literally conceived with this
Mm.
addictive quality, and I still have it in me. I feel it's something that I work with often, in my daily life now. But with mushrooms, it was that feeling straight away of like, this is not something you're going to be able to have that relationship with. Like, this is way more powerful than that, you know? So I had this, like, very strong respect for it, almost like it felt like a medicine. It really
Mm.
did. Even though I wasn't in a ceremonial context in that moment, it felt like a medicine. So yeah, it was like, well, okay, this is powerful. I'm gonna enjoy this, and I might not do it again for a while. um, but
I
yeah,
guess
so
a hammock with children running around is like in between it, recreational and ceremonial.
yeah, it was a perfect ceremony because it was all how it was meant to be for me. But you know what I mean, versus the
Hmm.
sort of ceremonies that we hold now, or that you hold now in those spaces. So yeah. Um, but then another thing happened, which is a really kind of intimate part of this story, but I want to share it because it's really beautiful. Um, so I went back to my hammock and was just sort of enjoying the visuals and looking up at the it was like a wicker kind of roof. And then in the space in between me and the roof, so the space in between, just like the air in between, appeared three figures, right? And it was just the silhouette of them. So it wasn't like with colors, or it was just the silhouette of three people. There was a man and two women, and they were like running towards me in slow motion. And they were indigenous people. And the man had like fangs almost. He was running as if he was like running away from something or hunting. And the women were moving in this very feminine way beside them. And I was just watching them in awe because they were so beautiful, so powerful, and they were sort of in some way connecting with me. We were connecting with each other. And I was just like completely in awe of these people and the way that they were, their presence. It was so powerful. It was like being in touch with, now I can look back and I could label it of like they were my spirit guides or my ancestors, or, but at the time it felt like just a deep soul, and I could also feel it, physical connection with these people, and I could feel it in my whole body as well.
Uh,
It was so profound, because my body then started moving as they were moving, and so yeah, it was really really beautiful. And that story of this encounter with these spirit guides, I will just call them that, has continued throughout my life. I mean, I was doing IFS therapy only 2 years ago. And normally, for anyone who doesn't know what IFS therapy is, it's like the form of therapy where you meet your sub personalities, right?
parts of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. The parts of yourself, and we all have these different parts. And in general, I will have my regular parts that I just always meet, that are always part of me. But this time, I ironically, well, not ironically, coincidentally, not coincidentally, like serendipitously,
Synchronously.
synchronistically, just before I was coming to Mexico, actually, I did this parts journey with my therapist, and there were these spirit guides there this time, the three of them. in the background of my usual types, but these people there again. And so I found, I mean, this was like 12 years later. And so I don't know. Uh, I also love that I don't need to fully understand that. I don't really need to say it's definitely this and it's definitely that, but it just, these experiences just allow me to trust in the unfolding of these experiences, and that, yeah, that we're somehow being guided. Yeah. And then after that experience, I didn't do mushrooms again for a while. I waited um, until the next time presented itself.
I think what you said too about not having to explain the experience leaves you open to more possibilities, and it helps other people. Like, I think it helps other people along the path, because if you're like, this is the way it is, and this is what happened, and this and this and this, I think that can kind of turn people off.
Totally. And also, some things can make sense years later. Like, some things take years and years to unfold, and to grow. Like we were saying about seeds, like these seeds, they take time to fruit and to plant. So, and well, to grow and to bear fruit. So yeah, some things won't make sense
So I'm
immediately.
curious, before this experience, did you have any like connection to any, like, would the concept of guides or something make sense before this, or was that also part of your like makeup?
Um, I have always been, I would say more like I believed in God than spiritual because I was raised Catholic.
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't religious really, but I believed in God. Like I
You had
had a
some.
belief. You know what I mean? Yeah, I had a faith. I had faith in something. But I also have always, honestly, you wouldn't think this now because of how I speak, but I always had a bit of a affliction towards these words of spirit guides and angels, and I was honestly more inclined to the scientific route of things, and always wanted to understand the how and the mechanisms behind things. So, no, I didn't really have a relationship with spirit guides or anything like that before that. And even when that experience happened, I didn't say, "Oh, I just met my spirit guides." But I was an only child for 7 years, and so I did used to have imaginary friends that I used to talk to and hang out with. So,
Do you
I don't
still have
know,
those?
probably. But now I have no doubt that I'm guided.
That's something I still go back and forth on, because I still very much want to understand the mechanisms.
Yeah, yeah. It's really nice to have the balance of both. I think it is. I also think because we live in a world where it is, as much as we want to be like bottom up and listen to our body, we live in a top down world. If something makes sense in our head, then we can then give permission for our body to feel it. A lot of the time, that's the way that it works. Um, but I'm learning to let it be both ways now, and not necessarily need the proof of how it works before I maybe allow it.
I'm still, I'm trying to flip it, because I always need this first.
You trying to be bottom up?
I think yes.
Yeah, yeah. But it's good to be both. I think because our head is valuable. It's just that we are all too in our heads and overthink too much and try and think our way through everything.
So, all right. Now it's been a few years, and you're doing a second experience.
A second psychedelic experience that I want to share? Sure.
I mean, I love hearing about all of them, so as many as you would like to.
Okay. I wasn't prepared for a number two, but I can share. I can share. Okay, since we spoke about parts already, then maybe I can talk about these because I think that that's quite this experience because this is quite cool.
Sure.
So there is a place in England, a very old place called Nine Ladies, and it's a stone circle. and people have been going there like on pilgrims and on pilgrimages, like the Druids and the witches. It's a place where people have gathered around the solstice for a long time. They still do now, every year. And I went there with a friend, and we took a pretty high dose of mushrooms, and we wandered round. We wandered round Nine Ladies, and we just had this beautiful experience. This place is just magical. And then I thought that the experience was over, and we went to sleep. We camped there, went to sleep, and I closed my eyes. And this was, by the way, this was way before I knew about parts work. Parts is a very pretty new field of psychology. It's like only been emerging in the last 5 or 6 years. This experience was 9 years ago. So I had no idea what was going on at this point. It was just a very intuitive experience. So I closed my eyes thinking that the mushroom journey was over. I'm in the tent, and then red theatre curtains literally appeared in front of me, before my eyes, with my eyes closed. You know, like old school theatre, like those
With a
curtains.
big red curtain.
Yeah. So it was like the symbol of you're about to watch something, you know? And so I was like, wow, okay.
With your eyes open?
With my eyes closed.
Closed.
Closed. But I was awake, but with my eyes closed. I'd literally just closed my eyes. And I was like, okay, I'm about to watch something. Fair enough. So I just sat back, and then the curtains opened really slowly. And then I saw an apartment, like I can call it an apartment building, like a big high-rise building, but almost like a Spanish style high-rise building, like a white building with lots of windows. And there was a people coming out of each window. So if you imagine being like 100 meters back and seeing a building in the distance, and then these people poking their heads out of the windows, right? So one person from, let's say, the top floor would open the window, and then someone from the second floor would open their window, and they were talking to each other. And then more people started opening the windows, and more and more and more. And then I realized, I don't know how I realized this, but I was like, these are parts of me. And as soon as I got that intuition, they froze. The people froze in time, almost like, you've got it. And then the scene slid to the side really, really slowly. And then the next scene came, and I was in a black room, completely black. No, sorry, I was watching a black room, because I was always like sitting on a chair looking at this. I wasn't involved in it really. And there was a round table, and this is where I met for the first time my parts. There was a man. Have you ever seen the movie Green Mile?
Yeah.
Man like John Coffey. That's that archetype. Very wise, sad, depleted, and he carried himself exactly how he is. Like, he was very, sad, depleted, almost like he was on death row. And then there were two girls who were like almost joined at the hip. They were like very bitchy, critical, judgmental, and they were like really, yeah. Then there was a man who was like, I would say business strategy-ish or something, because he was like doing this with his fingers, with his elbow on the table, like putting his fingers together, like he was thinking of a plan in some way. And then there was a little girl, and she was black, African, and she was about 6 or 7 years old. And I just sat back and was trying, taking time to figure out what was happening. And they were all playing their parts. So the girls were being bitchy, the little girl was being a little girl, like they were just talking to each other, but also talking over each other and acting out these roles until I realized, okay, wow, these are all aspects of me. Wow. And then when I was watching them more, I was kind of wondering what to do, how to engage with these people. And I like clicked my fingers and it was like, hey, you lot, I'm in control here. You need to listen to me. If I could go back, I probably shouldn't have approached them like that, really. But I didn't know what to do. I was just like, come on. And then I gave each one of them like feedback and said, to the wise man, John Coffey, he needs to take up more space. To the girls, that they need to calm down. And what was interesting was that they all responded how you would expect them to respond because they were playing their role perfectly. So when I told them,
Bitchy.
yeah, they were like, no, kind of, very refusing the feedback. John Coffey was like knowing that he had to do that, but also really demotivated. So almost like he'd lived so many lives, he's just like, I'm done with this. And then I can never remember what I said to the man, so I would be making something up, so I'm not gonna say that. But then the girl, I remember wanting to tell her something, but as soon as I looked at her, she cowered away. She was terrified. She would not even she wouldn't listen. She wouldn't take feedback. So I remember just pausing before I said something to her and was like, we have work to do, you and me, together. And that was the first time that I really felt what everyone talks about as inner child work, from that moment. And yeah, then after that, after I'd sort of counseled each one of them, the scene closed and then the curtains closed. And I obviously got my journal out and just wrote everything that I just experienced. And then I've shared this story many times as well since, because it changed my life. I didn't really know that was a thing, that you had different aspects of your psyche. And then, of course, as it does, it's like a theme in my life. Fast forward to now doing my master's, and one of the first modules that we do in the first year is all about parts work. And we go on this journey to meet our parts, and I'm like, yeah, I've met these before on an LSD trip, spontaneously, before I even knew what parts work was.
And this was 9 years ago from like today.
Yeah. But I didn't have a label for it then of parts work, it was just like it was a trip, it was an experience.
I have a question then. So, with you doing this type of therapy fairly recently, has any of those same parts come up?
Yeah, all of them. They are
Wow.
the parts that I see every time I go on this journey without medicine now. If I have a IFS session and she takes me on exactly the same journey, she takes me on a journey through a forest, and then you come to a theater, and the curtains open and your parts are behind them, and it's just crazy that that's exactly what my trip was before that.
That's wild to me because you didn't know what they were, but it had enough of a opening of a consciousness that let that through.
Yeah. I've always been super interested in consciousness, though. I mean, like, weirdly. I remember I just used to ask really, really big questions at really young ages, One of the first things that I even put in Google, before it was Google, like Yahoo, was "Who am I?" I was like 10 years old. So, yeah.
I think I tortured Sunday school teachers asking complex moral questions when I was like 10 years old.
Yeah, I mean, but somewhere along the line, though, that part of us, it's not welcome. It doesn't feel super welcome in like ordinary life. I don't know. Because I always remember feeling a bit like I had to subtly suppress that part of me, you know? Like,
The inquisitive, asking
yes,
questions part.
yeah. Or no, but asking deep questions, like really deep questions. There's a theme that's coming up in this podcast of like seeds. and then years later coming into fruit. I'm just noticing that that's what's happening. In 2021, it was the year before I drank ayahuasca for the first time. I did a deep dive mushroom journey, like 6 grams or something like that. Yeah, it was a 6 grams. And I did this journey with a friend of mine who was somebody that I followed on this path. And I followed him because in 2013, even before I went to Thailand and had my first mushroom experience, I met this guy, and he was sober at a rave. And I just knew instantly, like, I need to know you. There was like a recognition. And he kind of took me under his wing, and he was into like all of this stuff. His name's Danny Saggers, so in case he listens to this, because I'll send him the link. Shout out to Danny Saggers, because he was somebody who really led the way. He was going to Peru doing ayahuasca in 2014, long before anyone that I knew did it then. And I remember him taking me on this journey, and he was going to Peru to do ayahuasca all them years ago. And I remember him coming back and telling me about it and thinking, I am nowhere near ready for that. Like, the things that he was telling me were just like they seemed so far from what I was ready for. But then lo and behold, as the years gone on, we sort of caught up with each other. I guess there's only so much further you can take it. And then we reunited. And this, like, I don't know how many years later, 7 years later, we did mushrooms together, just me and him, in a beautiful villa with a white room. And because we are still, but so very much, I would even go as far as to say a bit neo-spiritual at that time, because I was living in Ibiza. So everything is all about like divine alignment. And we did mushrooms at 11 a.m. on the 11th of November. And we decided like 11, we're going to do it then. And we did this big, massive dose of mushrooms. And the light was perfectly coming through this white room. The room had like big ornaments of Ganesha and Buddha everywhere. And we had this playlist on, and we just put our blindfolds on, lay back, and it just unfolded. And the first message that I got was, "You're gonna die today."
Wow.
Like, really? Okay. Okay. And then, I was thinking, well, I took the blindfold off, looked around, saw the light coming through the window, and it was just a beautiful feeling that I had in my body. And I was like, and I think this is the gift of also having this rock bottom moment, as well as a little bit more courage when it comes to these feeling like you're gonna die, which is a theme that comes up in psychedelic experiences a lot. It's given me the courage to surrender into those experiences deeper. And I remember thinking, oh shit, but then looking and seeing the light and the beauty and just thinking, right, okay, if I'm gonna die, then maybe this is pretty good way to go. And then, so I say that, but then I would close my eyes and sink. And then, of course, parts of my mind and my ego would be like, no way, we're not ready for this.
Yeah.
What about, what about this and this and this? And there would be lots of things clinging. But the music was so divine. It was so perfectly orchestrated. Every time I wanted to come back, it would say something like surrender, let go, trust. So I was kind of dancing with this, like, let go, surrender. And eventually I just did. I just completely let go. And everything was already black because I had my blindfold on, but it was like things went more black than what they could have been. But I still had the voice in my head. I had the voice in my head, but I couldn't feel my body. I was completely disconnected from my body. But I had the voice that said, am I dead now? It was like, okay. And then this almost like a genie, you know, like the genie from Aladdin. It was like a blue smoky figure.
Did he talk
Like,
like Robin Williams?
no. Didn't talk with words. It was all like subliminal kind of telepathic communication. But it was like Shiva in a smoke form, like a blue figure moving. And it came and it just like hovered right in front of me. And it goes, all right, so now what do you want to be? And I was like, what? So this is what happens when you die? Do you get to like decide what you want to be? Cool. And then, you know, the first thing that I said,
No?
it was a rock.
A rock.
Yeah. I mean, some therapists have tried to decode that for me, but I just can't find it funny. Yeah, that's the first thing that I thought of. And I was like, but then once my ego, because these voices in my head, this part was still very much there. Was like, oh no, maybe that would be really boring. So maybe I'll be like a tree or a river. And I just kept going through these aspects of nature that I wanted to be. And this thing, this figure, like Shiva, was watching me go in this loop. And it was like, see, you humans, you don't know what you want. And I was like, you're good. I was really like engaging with this, and it was like, I know I'm good. It was also really knowing who it was, kind of thing. It was like an intelligence that was connecting with me. And so I was going round in this loop, and then my ego would come on and be like, maybe I'll be famous, maybe I'll be all of this and all of that. Until eventually I literally got so exhausted by finding all of the things that I would be that I realized I couldn't think of anything better than that I would be than myself, than me. You know, it's like, oh yeah, that's the point. I'm supposed to be me, and I didn't even have to, or to what I know, I didn't even have to think about it or create it. I've just become me. I was born, you know, and so yeah, it was just a really beautiful realization, because it was a feeling in my body, you know, just a deep feeling of being a deeper level of acceptance with who I am. And then this thing like almost applauded me. It was like, you get the point, you get the message, now stop trying to be something else because you are you. And then I was like, oh wow, that was an amazing, amazing lesson. And then this genie was like, now you bow to me. And it like made me almost put my hands into like prayer position and bow to it. And I did, and then it disappeared. And then I still felt dead though. I still felt disconnected from my body. I was still in the black, and I was still like completely sunken into the mattress. And then all of the people, this moves me quite a lot because I remember it like it was yesterday. All of the people who I've met in my life that have played a significant part in my journey appeared, and like bowed to me. And I bowed back to them. And it was like teachers, you know, like people that had been teachers, and everyone's a teacher in some way, but we know that some people play different roles in our lives and unlock different things. And all of these people that I'd met on my journey was just there and bowing, and I was bowing to them. And it was like, oh, and this quote, we're all walking each other home, really resonated with me. It was like, oh yeah, everybody that we meet in some way is like showing us something, and holding our hand for a little bit while we keep walking in this part of the path, you know. And it just moved me so deeply to like tears, because I was like, had a new appreciation for all of the people that I'd met on my journey. And then after that, it just reminded me of the sacredness of life on a really deep level, that experience. Like, because after that, I swear to God, Ruga, this is the God's honest truth, I literally felt my vibration lift from that moment. Felt my core vibration of how I was vibrating daily raise a little bit from that day. from allowing myself to die again and surrender.
With some amount of, I guess, self acceptance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, more self-acceptance, right? I never thought about it like that, but yeah, a deeper level of self-acceptance and a deeper respect for life and this kind of journey that we're on and just how sacred it is and how much of a ceremony it is. It was like beautiful reminder of that. And I created that experience because I made it meaningful. Even whether 11:11 is meaningful to people or not, some people take those things too far, but it meant something to me. I in that moment. So I think that with the intention and doing it like that, and that the amount of heart that I put into having that experience, it gave me that gift.
Mm.
Um, yeah. It was a really, really beautiful, another really beautiful experience.
Beautiful. So we kind of covered it along the way, but usually like the third part of this is to speak about like what has changed, what has shifted, what has been different. Although, I mean, we talked about meeting your guides, inventing parts work before it was a thing.
No, but I can talk about it more for sure. I think that when, as you know, as we both know, when we have these experiences and the gifts, there's another part of it which is then sharing it. And so, yeah, the way that all of these experiences have have changed my life is by wanting to be somebody who allows other people to feel safe enough to take the leap.
Mm.
I don't know. Just wanting to be somebody that, yeah, gives people courage in life. Because one of the things that I witness, that we all witness, is that people, most of us, even me as well, we're afraid. We're living in fear and it limits us. And so all of these experiences, especially the first one, the first rock bottom, has just kind of given me this weird fearlessness, which gets to be a gift in a way. So now my life is dedicated to that in one way, shape, or form, and it shows up. It manifests in lots of different ways, whether that's holding someone's hand in a ceremony or whether that's now what I'm doing, which is coaching and just teaching people how to feel safe in their body. But it's all the same skills, kind of, that like recycle in lots of different ways. Um, so yeah, it's like sharing that gift, and yeah, my spiritual practice continues, and it's a big, big part of who I am now. Um, yeah, and it always will be for sure. Like that's something that was just always inevitably part of my life. So I don't think that that's ever going to change now.
Something that you told me about, like when you came to Mexico too, and you didn't have a lot of money saved up.
Mm.
Um, like when you'd mentioned that to me, you mentioned it as kind of like maybe I shouldn't have done that or something stressful. But that was also something that I really was impressed by, of just the ability to remain like completely carefree and trusting despite that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the level of the relationship that I've had with life for a while is like, yeah, this route is gonna be really uncomfortable sometimes, like for sure, but you will always be okay. Always. Like something always reveals itself. And I definitely don't want to live like that, like as a choice forever. But in my 20s and early 30s, part of being young and exploring and then having this knowledge that I will find a way. A way will reveal itself. It always does. It's really helped me to take life on as an adventure, you know. Now I'm not, because of course with that you end up in some uncomfortable situations, of course. Like, and so it's not all amazing, But some part of me just knows that innately that life is an experience. It's an experience to be had. And again, this rock bottom experience that humbled me in so many ways, Ruga. It humbled me in the sense that I'm not really attached to material things that much. Now, I will like to enjoy material things, of course, but I'm not attached, so I have no problem in just not accumulating lots of stuff, and that also gives me the freedom to be able to roam a little bit more and a little bit easier. But there is something to be said for having security in that sense as well. I wouldn't necessarily promote that way of living to everyone.
Sure, it's more the mentality that I noticed.
But it's the trust in life. It's the trust in life that something always reveals itself. And I've found myself in so many situations where one minute I thought, I was like, what am I going to do? And then something pops up. And ironically, it's always as soon as you stop asking, what am I going to do? And you just like pay attention to the moment. And you just say, you don't even put it to one side. You just like focus on where you are in that moment and be who you are. And something presents itself time and time and time again. And then it's like another path opens for you. Yeah. I think as well, actually, throughout my 20s, I also avoided having the accumulation of like stuff, and because I didn't want to have more baggage to carry with me. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your stories. So a question I usually ask everybody is, if there's anybody that's considering doing plant medicine, what would you tell them?
Good question.
Thank you.
I would tell them to listen to themselves. Like, if you feel, because imagination and curiosity, they're not random. The things that we imagine and the things that we are curious about are for us. They are parts of us communicating to us. And so I would say, listen to, if it's coming from within you, like a desire, a curiosity, then do it. Slowly, gently, be informed. Make sure you get all of the right information about it. But to take your curiosity seriously, because it's coming from an intelligence that we don't understand, and it's trying to open up our lives and open up our mind and guide us. So I would say that. And I would also say plant medicine is an incredible tool, and it can really, really help us. I mean, the things that I've been able to heal in my lifetime with the help of plant medicines would not have been possible no matter how many years of yoga I did, for sure. So I know that plant medicine helps, and having some form of practice, some form of either yoga, breath work, something that involves ideally the physical body, or even music or art, something that you can allow that energy that moves to move through you afterwards and before is always helpful. I would say, for sure. Yeah. But then I would also say, do it.
So when someone asks, I'll just play that.
Yeah. Do it.
All right, Jamie. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a guest. And I will put in the description, maybe ways where they can reach out to you if they're interested in some of the things you're involved in.
Totally. Thank you so much, Ruga. Enjoy your day.